Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us today. In this presentation, we are going to talk about chronic stress. Now, what is chronic stress? Well, when we are exposed to things that keep stressing us for a long time, we call that chronic stress. It doesn't just affect our minds, it also affects our bodies. Both parts work together, and if one is stressed, the other gets impacted too. In this talk, we'll get to talk about how this happens and look at the science behind what chronic stress does to our body. So let's get started.
So, what is chronic stress? Like we kind of mentioned in the last slide, chronic stress is typically marked by distress that is consistent and prolonged. Chronic stress is often associated with things like work, marital tensions, social isolation, or abuse during childhood. These are all major factors in life that are associated with different stimuli, which could be termed stressors. So, any kind of distress that is long lasting could be considered chronic and have serious health implications. Okay, so to understand chronic stress, let's first look at what normal stress looks like in someone's body. So, the HPA axis is a really great place to start. And the HPA axis stands for the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. So, that acronym is actually the major pathway for chronic stress. So, it starts with the hypothalamus releasing CRH, or corticotropic releasing hormone, to circulate. The CRH triggers the pituitary gland to release ACTH, or adrenocorticotropic hormone, into the bloodstream, which stimulates the adrenal cortex to release glucocorticoids, most notably cortisol, which are often what helps keep that negative feedback loop in place. So we have the release of CRH into the bloodstream that triggers the release of ACTH that gives us those glucocorticoids that returns us to homeostasis. And this negative feedback loop works pretty well in people experiencing normal amounts of stress. So in someone experiencing prolonged distress, like chronic stress, that negative feedback loop can be impaired. So one of the reasons that it could be impaired is because of the downregulation of glucocorticoid receptors in the brain. And that leaves cortisol in circulation, which has direct impacts on the cardiovascular system.
Victor Ogunjumelo here. Chronic stress's effect on the body during long-term exposure to cortisol can cause immune system suppression, which weakens our immune system and make it unable to defend the body against bacteria and infections. Another effect is the elevated risk of heart-related conditions, weakened cognitive abilities, which means our learning memory gets impaired. Prolonged stress can also lead to inflammation, which is a factor in several health issues. Risks and long-term effects of chronic stress on our mental and physical health are sadness and anxiety, elevated blood pressure or hypertension, weakened immunity. Long-term stress also raises the risk of certain illnesses, such as diabetes and heart disease. Stress weakens our body, slowly and gradually, until we get weakened physically in most cases. So these are more reasons for us to be conscious of our health and well-being. Run general blood tests and urine tests to be aware of any abnormalities in our bodies. Thank you.
To summarize, both the sympathetic nervous system and the HPA axis are activated by prolonged stress. The sympathetic nervous system is the system that controls a person's fight or flight response. The HPA axis is the communication between glands that helps manage stress. Prolonged activation of these is detrimental to someone's physical and emotional well-being. To reduce these and better someone's physical and emotional well-being, reduce the hazards that are linked with chronic stress. Things that can help manage stress are practices like exercise, meditation, and therapy.